Bill Du Bois and Ed, I knew I saw you here. Would you guys just stand up or wave and so everybody can see you? Oh. Thank you for coming. And we have one lone, staunch member from the LCCC Foundation Board, the board chair, George McIlvaine. Morning, George. And we've got a lot of new faces, again, and you know, the interesting thing about this job, I know when we have a lot of new faces, and we always worry whether or not the list is complete, they say, Joe, you go ahead and read these, and say who's. So I'm going to do my best to introduce the folks that have joined us this past fall. I know we've had a lot of hires and things going on just in the recent month or so. So if I miss anybody, I hope you guys will shout out and help me with everybody. So the new people, new introductions. Tim Stevens, mechanical maintenance and plumbing technician. Tim, are you here with us? Welcome. Kathy Herstead in our ACES program, our Adult Basic Education program. Hi, Kathy. Gary Warner with Campus Safety. Hi, Gary. Dr. Jill Kozlowski, Dean of Students. Jill. Rebecca Reese, Instructional Designer. Go ahead. Hi, Rebecca. Janine Steele, Career Specialist. Hi, Janine. Sarah Smith, our new Data IR analyst. Christy Gordo in the Adelante program. Is Christy here? Well, we'll welcome her anyways. Catherine Fluelling, our Director of Student Planning and Success. And we introduced him, I think, last time, although he hadn't officially started, and he's had foot surgery. Dr. Kim Bender, our Associate Vice President of Institutional Effectiveness. We can see how fast he's recovering by that rapid rise from the seat. James Miller, Special Assistant in the Vice President's Office, Government Affairs. Doug Redding, Custodian. Is Doug here? No, we'll welcome anyways. Courtney Wenta in the Gear Up office. Okay. She brought her own cheering section. Justin Novak, Office Assistant over at the ACC. Jonathan Daschel, our Architectural Maintenance Technician. Hi, John. Lisa Snyder in the CDC. Daniel Wells, Electrical Maintenance Technician. Daniel. And a new addition, Austin Albers, who is our new Heads Women Volleyball coach. So that's my list. Did I miss anybody? Good, good. Well, welcome all the new faculty and staff to the college, and you'll find that LCCC is a busy place, an engaging place, and hopefully one that you enjoy your time with us, and we're glad you chose LCCC. So. For this morning, I thought I'd start out talking a little bit about change at the campus. I know there's a lot of things going on at the campus, and there's been a lot of conversation, especially over the past semester, the past year, about that change. And I just wanted to step back today and try to talk a little bit about where we're going and why we're going there. See if all this good stuff reads. So one of the things that I get asked on an almost weekly basis, and certainly when I first started, which is about 2 years ago now, is what's your vision for the college? What's the vision for the college? And over the past, I'd say 4 or 5 months, I've been getting asked that more and more, and by a lot of you folks. And so I really had to think that, you know, based on the increasing question coming to me, that I maybe haven't done a very good job to try to outline where it is we're going and what that vision is. So recognizing that I haven't been doing a very good job at that, I thought I'd take a stab today to try to do some of that. So, and you know, even for the folks who sort of understand, I think, where we're going and have said, I get it, I'm on board, I get there, I'm realizing that change in getting there is still kind of a messy and at times uncomfortable process. And so one of the things I need to do better is to continually sort of put out there why we're doing this, where we're going, and help people make that change. I love this cartoon because isn't that the truth? And sometimes we're okay with where we're going, it's just we hate getting there. absolutely hate getting there. So I think the one thing that we can probably start with is a common understanding of sort of what we're here and what we're doing. And I hope you all can agree with me that really what we're doing here is helping prepare our students to succeed in life. I mean, that's really what we're here to do. And our mission even states that. You know, we're trying to transform our students' lives through the power of inspired learning. But that's kind of like a dance with our students, isn't it? You know, as you look at that, one of us is leading, and hopefully the other one is willing to be led. And as they say, it takes two to tango, right? So let me tell you a quick story. When just after Brooke and I, my wife and I got engaged, she said, "Joe, we need to take dance lessons." And I said, "Okay, well, we can take dance lessons. Why do we need to take dance lessons?" Because I don't want to look like an idiot when we're dancing at our reception. Most people in Montana, when they get married, their dance is basically, yeah, right? Okay. So I said, I'm willing to do that, and so we signed up for dance lessons. And it was great. We had a wonderful instructor. You know, I was actually coordinated back then, you know, 11 years ago now. And we had a great instructor. And so I was ready to learn, I was ready to lead, to do that. My wife, on the other hand, was a little independent, stubborn. She wasn't quite ready to be led. And so we didn't have, I hope she's not watching this. So we didn't have a very good start, and I remember about our third lesson in, the dance instructor was a great lady. So this is your ideal student, right? She says, "Okay, Joel, take me a turn around the dance floor," and she jumped in, and she was willing. She knew what she was doing. She was ready to be led, and we cruised around the dance floor. You know, we were waltzing. She's that ideal student, right? The one that's ready for you, engaged, knows what they're doing, gets it just like that. I thought, this is great, you know. And she said, "Oh, that's perfect." She said, "Okay, Brooke, now I'm going to take you around." And so she tried to lead Brooke, and it was a disaster. Okay. You know, and so in the end she said, "Well, Brooke, we really need to work on you." That was our last lesson with her. Well, so now fast forward 10 years, in all fairness to my wife, and we're here in Cheyenne, and my wife says, "You know, we really should take a stab at this again." And so we signed up for dance lessons. I said, "All right, great." The roles had completely flipped, right? You know, it's like I had two left feet. You know, my mind was elsewhere, and she wanted to learn. She wanted to be led. She wanted to do it, you know, and you sit in there, and they're saying structured, keep the space, you know, do those things around. And it was exactly opposite. I was like, I just wasn't committed. I just wasn't trying to be better, and I was horrible. And here she was ready to do that, and the instructor said, "Joe, we got to work on you. We got to do those types of, you know," and we're not taking dance lessons anymore. So, but here's my point to the story. You know, we're in that dance, and as an institution, we're in that dance right now. And certainly, we have students that come to us, and they're not ready to be led, right? They're not always willing. They're not the ones that get it like that. They're not, you know, ready to do that. And I recognize that. And we're always going to have to work with those students, and we're never going to be able to engage, retain, and keep them all. But we have a lot of students that are ready. And so one of the things that we need to do is be prepared, be ready to improve as the person leading that dance, as the group that's leading that dance, and look internally and say, okay, what is it that we can do to make sure that we're ready, that when that student wants to learn, when that student wants to be led around the dance floor, we're ready to do that. And so it's with that spirit that I want to talk about change and the work that we're doing and why we're doing it. So a lot of people have told me, you know, they said, well, you're doing this and you're doing that, and why are we doing this, and why are we doing this at the same time? I don't get it. What's the vision? What's the vision? So in many ways, they say it's like a puzzle, right? We don't see how all the pieces fit together or how they connect. And so what I thought I'd do is just work on that metaphor of the puzzle and talk a little bit about what are the major pieces in this puzzle and in this puzzle of change and how they sort of fit together. The first piece of that puzzle, and probably one of the most important pieces, is an outcomes-based curriculum. And what I mean by that is that our curriculum starts with the end in mind. You've heard that statement, that quote before, you start with the end in mind. That our curriculum and our offerings start with that end. What is it that we want our students to be able to do, to be exposed to have developed? And then how do we know when we get there? We look at those outcomes first before we talk about content, textbooks, instructors, delivery modality, what have you, we know what it is that we're trying to develop in our students and how we're going to tell when they get there. And so one of the most important things to this vision, to this puzzle, to where our institution is going is that outcomes-based curriculum. It needs to be driven by the needs of our community and society. And I'm not just talking about workforce needs. I'm talking about the broader needs of society and where we're going. It needs to be designed with the appropriate balance between rigor and relevance. Having those rigorous standards, those high experts, setting the bar high, which I think we need to do, is necessary, but only if it's also relevant to what we're trying to accomplish with those students. It has to be thoroughly assessed for student achievement of learning outcomes. We need to be able to assess and actually understand when students get there, how they're doing, and when we find areas where they're maybe not getting there, we need to think about then how do we improve what we're doing to help more of those students get there. It has to be structured so students can complete and then be successful, and it has to be aligned with the spectrum of education. We need to close those gaps between K-12 to post-secondary to college, that transition. We need to close those gaps if they go on either to the workforce, but certainly to the university. So here are some of the things that we're working on and why we're working on those. Our general education redesign is grounded in this conversation about what is it that our students, regardless of their program, need to be able to do, be exposed to be successful. Assessment of institutional competencies. We're making great progress on defining the criterion and how we look at the outcomes that we call our institutional competencies. And now we need to start assessing whether or not we're getting our students there when they leave us. If the faculty that are working on the master course record of outlines, going through that process, curriculum mapping, looking at your competencies, talking about those common assessments, it's why we're doing that. We're looking at the outcomes, the end. There's a degree and certificate policy and procedure that's working its way through that really defines our degree and certificates and puts parameters on those, and it's moving through. I know many of our faculty are now working on program articulations with their university partners, and we need to make that shift away from course-by-course articulations to look at that structured, seamless pathway for a program of our students. And then the work that we're doing in developmental education reform and really looking at how we help students get college ready. Program analysis and review, we're working on a new program review process, and we'll continue to respond to the needs of the community, the state, with new degree and certificate programs. So the second piece of the puzzle pertains to student engagement, really. And we do this through an integrated system of student supports. When we look at that, and I'm fond of this quote and we hear a lot, and I talk a lot about, and you'll hear it on campus, about student supports and student services that are holistic in nature. And I think Terry O'Banion sums it up fairly well when he calls it treated as an integrated, cohesive, systemic, and connected series of experiences. Students don't just have one part that's interested in financial aid, one part that's interested in their general education, one part that's interested in sonography. They have an entire body that experiences us in higher education in an interconnected way. So it makes sense that our supports should also be interconnected. These supports need to be intrusive and intensive by design. And you'll hear the word mandatory a lot when we're talking about those things. I'm fond of the quote by Kay McClenny, who leads the CESI survey in Enterprise, and she says, students don't do optional. I'm starting to believe that adults don't do optional real well either. But they don't, and especially community college students. And so we have to be intensive with those student supports. They have to make sure that our academic and non-academic supports are working in tandem. And what I mean by that is when we have a student that has a learning disability, and we're working with them and trying to structure that, and they need to have help in the writing center, that we're working in tandem, so we're communicating so that student is an entire picture regardless of which side that we're working with. Our academic supports also need to be connected to the classroom, and we've got some great examples of how that's working, but we need to make sure that when that student leaves that classroom, that student doesn't cease becoming a student or being a student. They still need those supports, and there needs to be that continuity. And we need to focus on doing these engagement activities that engage students and continue to engage students. And if you work through our strategic plan and things we're doing, that's what we're trying to do, is engage them, immerse them in this educational enterprise. So some of the things we're doing, new advising model, we're updating and actually creating a mandatory orientation process, trying to get rid of late registration and find a structured way to get students into classes and prepared to go early on. And if they get here late, find a way to still get them into classes but not push them up against that start date. The new first year experience, the freshman seminar, and working on a need-based financial aid or scholarship program. The vast majority of the aid in the state of Wyoming that we give to students is merit-based aid. It's a wonderful program, whether it's the Hathaway or what we do as an institution with our scholarships and activity programs. But we have a growing number of students who come to us that have unmet financial need. And that financial need sometimes is the make or break whether or not they come back in their second semester. We're trying to leverage our dollars so that we can close that gap and at least satisfy that unmet need so we can keep them here and remove that financial barrier. The great work we're doing in the Learning Academic Commons, the library, we've had a great start with the Academic Success Center in there, the Writing Center, but we've got big plans for what we'll be doing with that and talk about an environment that will start to bridge the academic, non-academic supports, connect to the classroom, and hopefully connect many of the faculty and staff with our students. And the things we're doing in student leadership and life. The third piece, though, is about an engaging environment. And I don't think we can underestimate how important the environment is on the way we engage with our students and the way they engage with us. And think about that just in your own lives as you come to work and as you engage in different places around the community. The environment matters. And in some ways, it matters significantly. And so we have a lot of conversation. We're doing a lot of work that deals with the environment. And it's easy to say, oh, that's just building buildings, or that's just renovating that, it's just doing that. It's not about that. It's about creating an environment that really welcomes and engages people. We want that environment to be warm and welcoming, both personally and physically. In the way we treat, the way we interact, the way we serve our students, the way we work with each other, but then certainly physically we need that environment. Want it to be aesthetically pleasing, complementary to our surroundings and the environment in which we live in. Easy to navigate, stimulating to the mind, and it needs to support the educational enterprise. It needs to support what we're trying to accomplish. And then especially in today's day and age, an environment that's safe and secure. So here's some of the things we're doing. Most all of you are aware of our Building Forward campaign. Numerous projects in our facilities campaign. The one that we've been working on the most, or the two here recently, are the University Student Center and the Flex Tech building. Right after that, residence halls, fine and performing arts buildings, which we'll be doing the planning on. The work we're doing in Laramie with the expansion of the Albany County campus and all the other great things. Lots of renovations on campus, some that have garnered more conversation than others, but that's the purpose for these renovations and these changes, is to create that environment in some ways as a temporary solution until we can expand facilities, but in many ways as a long-term solution to starting us down the road of creating the environment that we want to have here for our students. Wayfinding, I think we're nearing completion on a plan for wayfinding our signage on campus, and hopefully this spring and summer we'll be implementing changes to that signage. You'll see construction starting on our campus gateways, really defining entrance to LCCC and pointing them to that front door with our west entrance and our east entrance. Lighting project ongoing, we're nearing completion there. Many things that we're doing in campus safety, the good work of Director James Crosby and what he's doing there and his folks. And student involvement, trying to get students engaged in this conversation and how we find out how to use students to make the environment more welcoming, and the many technology enhancements that we have going around campus. The fourth piece of the puzzle is about having strong systems. And what I mean by systems really is the order or the design in the way we approach our work, how we approach the things that we do. And we need to continue to strengthen and design systems that are efficient and effective in regards to how we do our work, that really look at accomplishing those goals and those ends in the best way possible, to relieve pressure off of many of you, but also off of strained resources. These systems have to be clearly articulated and documented. One of the things that we continue to struggle with is trying to find that record, that place, that guidance in our written documents to say this is how we do this and how we follow this. And it's something that we're going to continue to work on to do. These systems have to be consistently applied and adhered to. And I hear that a lot. Yes, that's what we do. Do we do it? No, we don't do it. We need to make sure that we're consistently applying those, all of us, and adhering to those. Technology, we have a wonderful technology infrastructure here, and great IT services staff and the things that they do. And it's one of those cases where we have the infrastructure, the capability to do just about anything. We need to learn how to leverage that technology to help us do things better. And we need to make sure our systems are ingrained with that technology, and we need to continue to look for those technology solutions to help us create those systems, improve those systems, make them more efficient. Maximizing existing resources. We're privileged in Wyoming, and I'll be honest with you, to have the resources that we have. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be very, very focused on ensuring we maximize every single penny that we have, and we try to close the gap where we're not doing that. So we can move those resources to new ideas, to improvements, and ways we can help our students. There may come a day where those resources aren't as generous coming out of the state, and we need to be prepared for that. And then building capacity for organizational learning and adaptability. We still want to do that. Our systems have to be designed so that all of you and the entire organization can learn from them and learn how to improve them, learn how to do things in new ways and change those things. So some of the things that we're doing, had some great work in financial aid, and I don't know if it's politically correct for me to say overhaul, but we've been doing a lot of work in there and trying to get that system functioning. We're going through and trying to formalize scholarship programs. I know there's been a lot of debate out there about scholarship programs. I've heard a lot of things from students and from many of you. And what we've had is really an inconsistent approach to how we allocate institutional aid. And one of the things we're trying to do is provide continuity, create a strong system that's based on strategic objectives of where and why we move dollars to help students be here, and trying to get that across all of our programs and all those opportunities so we can leverage those dollars. Enrollment management, looking at how we strategically enroll students, schedule courses, offer programs, do those types of things. Employee recruitment and onboarding, and we'll be working on evaluation and performance management in the coming year. This year we'll be working on a compensation model and looking at that and how we can update the model we have, and in some cases maybe throw it out the window and do something that's more relevant to the day we live in, and really more equitable for the employees that we have. Position analysis, faculty and staff development. We've got some good things happening out of HR, the work that Jenny Hargett's been doing, the Center for Teaching and Learning. Where's my new faculty this year that are part of the NFL? Not to be confused with the National Football League, the new faculty experience. I hope you're finding that beneficial, because I think we're off to an exceptional start there with what we're doing. Program review and assessment, we'll be rolling out the first modeling of a program analysis to give us an idea of how our programs are effective overall. And then we'll be continuing this work on policies and procedures. This fifth piece is about culture, and I'll be honest with you, I kind of struggled with how do you describe culture, and the culture we're trying to create and trying to do, and I still don't know if I have the right word there, but what I landed on is really a culture of commitment, and creating a culture of commitment here. And this isn't where I'm not talking about necessarily how our systems, or how we do our things, how we approach our work, not the systems piece, but rather the philosophy, the perspective, the values that we have that design those systems, that lead us in why we do the work that we do. And so when I talk about a culture of commitment, first and foremost, it's an unwavering commitment to our students and to our mission. And everything we do, and the first question we always ask, is this going to help us serve our students? Is this going to help us achieve that mission? And that's that commitment, that's part of that culture. Before we ask anything else, what's in it for me, what's in it for my friend, what's in it for the institution, is it harder work, is it easier? We ask first, is it best for our students, and does it help us meet that mission? It's a culture where we're dedicated to continuous improvement. And as we change, I recognize this, and I've heard this, that as we move through change, a lot of you and a lot of people are feeling like, well, if we're changing everything, does that mean that everything we've been doing is wrong? No, not at all. In fact, we've been doing a lot of really good things here for many, many, many years. And we've succeeded. And you've succeeded in some cases under some pretty stressful environments. Stable leadership, ups and downs with the economy and some of the reduction we've had there. But what this means is that we have to continue to look for how the world is changing, how our students are changing, and how we need to adapt ourselves to be better. How do we build off those things that are still successful, still gems, but recognizing that there's times when we have to retire the things we've done and we have to look for new ways of doing things. And that's got to be ingrained in our culture where it's not, oh my God, I don't want anybody to know that I did that, because what will they think, what will happen to me? I want to know, I need to admit that this is an area that I can improve, we can improve, and we're going to be dedicated to doing that. We're going to lay a plan. And that's what I want to see. It's important to know this is continuous improvement, not continuous punishment. We're not looking for ways to find what people are doing wrong. We're looking for ways to improve how we do things here. And that has to be ingrained in our culture. This culture has to be passionate. And I don't think there's a person in this room that I would say you're not passionate. And I've had many engagements with you, and I know that passion is there. And we need to be willing and open to engage in passionate discourse. But that has to be civil discourse. We need to make sure that the environment allows for people to engage and to speak their mind and to do that passionately, but yet with civility, both in how we receive it and how we respond to that. And we've got some work to do there across the board. But I want that passion to be there and always to be there. When we engage in that passionate discourse, though, or when we make decisions and we form our opinions, we need to be evidence-backed, evidence-informed as we do those things. It's great, we always have opinions. I like to say people will sometimes come and ask me and say, well, I want to ask you something. Should I ask you this? I say, well, I'll give you an opinion on anything if you ask that. But I hope that our opinions are based on evidence. When we don't have the answers, we go back and we look and say, what do we know? What can we find out to help back that? And when we make our decisions, we do that with the best information available. Last, our culture needs to be honest with ourselves and with each other. And that's part of that value of authenticity. And it's one that's really hard to define. We struggled with that as we worked on that through strategic planning and everything. But I believe that as an institution, we truly are authentic, and we need to continue to be authentic. And in many ways, that means being honest about who we are, what we are, and with each other. So some of the things we're doing, you're aware of these things: new strategic plan, updated mission, new vision statements and value statements, still continuing to work with shared governance and the College Council. They've been doing some wonderful work, the council members. I think that's going quite well. We continue to look at our key performance indicators. We'll continue to publish an institutional report card and really look at that evidence to see how we're doing. We're getting better and continue to work on integrating our budgeting process with our planning process and our assessment process, and a variety of other things we're doing to hold ourselves accountable and, to be honest, to be held accountable to external constituencies. So the last piece of our puzzle, I guess, it's really about what we do with all the other pieces, and call it creative adaptation. So if we have all of those other pieces in place, environment, curriculum, student supports, a culture of commitment, strong systems, this last piece is then how do we creatively adapt what we do, our programs, our services, our institution, to meet the needs of our learners, to meet the needs of the community. And it's one of the things that we really have to be focused on and we have to be doing is looking at new ways to quote-unquote package higher education and higher education opportunities. So when we talk about creative adaptation, talking about designing things to help our students access higher education and succeed. Need to keep the door open and need to ensure that people in our community, our state, have access to higher education, but then that they succeed. Should be tailored to, these should be tailored educational experiences that match the learner needs and styles. And we know not everybody learns the same. They need to be adapted to meet the other stakeholders' interests and needs, whether it's employers in the community, major partners like the university, or our high schools. So a few things we're doing and will be doing, we're still going to always have a traditional college experience. There's a lot of debate out there right now about whether or not with residential campuses and the traditional college experience is going to go away. I don't believe it is, at least not anytime soon. One of the fundamental things that we do as we help students be ready to succeed in life is actually help them mature and develop. And there is really no better way to do that than having that on-campus experience where they experience the culture, they build the relationships, they do those things. That's not going away. But we need to be looking at ways to actually expand our online learning and distributed learning platforms. There are students that simply won't make it here or can't be here full time, aren't wanting that traditional college experience. We've got some great work started on the accelerated associate degree program, and we need to continue to look at that. How do we accelerate our programs? We're doing some work in really trying to understand our outreach sites, some work going on in eastern Laramie County, out at the Air Force Base. We've got an environmental scan plan for Laramie and the Albany County campus, and of course new facilities over there. And need to be strengthening and looking at how we continue to grow early college opportunities. And now I'm not just saying concurrent enrollment. I think we've got some great work still leading the way with the National Association of Concurrent Enrollment Programs accreditation. Did I get that right, Brenda? Pretty close. NACEP, close enough. And that's still getting attention across the state. But we need to look at dual enrollment, online delivery of dual credit options, especially for our rural districts and the things we need to do. But there's also a lot of things that we should be doing at the campus, and I hope we get there. Learning communities that can be structured in a variety of ways, whether it's for students who have remedial needs when they get here, whether it's for undecided or undeclared students, whether it's by academic interest and program interest. Learning communities continue to be shown in the research as one of the most powerful tools to engage, retain, and ultimately help students succeed. Degree completion programs. A lot of adults in Wyoming, a lot of people out there with some college without a degree. How do we adapt our programming to actually open up the door to them to complete their degree? Credits for prior learning and prior experience. We are in the world of badges and MOOCs. We are in a military community. We are surrounded by IT training and certifications. What do we do to translate those experiences that are rich and oftentimes fairly aligned with what we might offer in a traditional educational environment? What do we do to assess that and actually award credit so that those students can step in and advance placement towards a degree? And then competency-based learning. If we have an outcomes-based curriculum, the opportunity truly for competency-based learning and competency-based programs opens the door. So now, obviously, there's a lot here, and there's a lot behind each and every one of these aspects. But what I wanted to do today was just share with you how all these things that may seem to be very, very disparate, they may seem to be separate or not connected, not engaged, really are part of an overall vision of where we're going. And, you know, I've had a lot of people ask me, why are we moving so fast and why are we doing this all at one time? You know, can't we just go step by step and just take it step by step? You know, you work in and live in a very complex environment here at LCCC, and these things are so interrelated that it's hard to work on one thing without addressing the other thing and without addressing the other thing. And so change is going to be messy for a while here. And as we kind of muddle through it and try to figure out how to do these things and understand the relationships that they have, we're going to have to find our way to survive and to do that. Do we have opportunities as administrators, as leaders, as leadership on campus to help people manage that change better? You bet we do. Do we need to be looking at that? You bet we do. But I believe if we can continue to move through and receive this end, we're going to have a stronger campus, a stronger institution into the future. So, you know, let me close up by talking a little bit about, going back to that dance analogy. You know, in many ways as we dance with our students to help them succeed, I recognize that I'm probably dancing with many of you, and hopefully you don't take my past experience or track record as a indication of how well I'll do at that. But I recognize that I need to take some time to step back and think about how well I'm leading, how willing I am to improve the way I do it. And if you're willing to be led down this road, then I'm willing to make that change. And so this semester, I'll continue to get out to the schools and the divisions to have those conversations. But I'm also going to try to create opportunities, probably with fellow cabinet members, the other vice presidents, to hold sessions and get out on the campus community around these topics and the things that we're doing. And I hope you'll take advantage of those to come and actually be honest with me and say, I don't understand this, this is a better way to do it. We can get there, but you have to help us by doing this. I want to be a better dance partner for all of you. And so we'll be doing that. We'll be getting out to the campus. Do take advantage of that if you can't. My door's open. Give me a call, come swing by, send me an email. If there are things that I can be doing better to help us not stymie the change, because the change is going to happen, and we're setting that roadmap, and I hope you can get committed to that. But help me create an environment that may not be perfect as we move towards that change, but hopefully is one that allows you to engage and be happy and engaged with the work environment. So please use that. With that, have a great semester. Thank you for all that you do and continue to do for the college. We've got great students, we've got a great community, and we've got a great campus of faculty and staff. And so I truly appreciate what you do at the college. I'm here to help, and hopefully you all have a wonderful semester. Thank you. We have a little bit of time, and part of the agenda, I think, said question and answer, and so I'm happy to answer any questions. Would love to hear what's on your mind, thoughts, suggestions, things like that. I'm pretty sure the next thing starts at 10, correct, student? Any questions? Sir?
You talked about changing the scholarships to help keep kids in school that are already here, and I'm concerned about the cost of attracting the cream of the crop to come here so that we can continue to be a stellar institution.
That's a good question. A couple of things. I'm trying to think where to start with that. We have been fairly successful in using our scholarship dollars to get students to come to us. In fact, the majority of our institutional aid has been what we call merit-based aid, whether it's an activities or a presidential scholarship or those types of things. Some of our programs have been very aggressive in using the dollars that are available to go out and recruit those students and to do that. It is interesting, though, that the vast majority of our students still come right here from Laramie and Albany County. And so hopefully we're getting the best of those students that are here, but we just aren't as successful in recruiting those highly academic, high capability students outside of Laramie County. We have some exceptions and want to continue to see some of that with some of our extracurricular activities, with our athletics activities. But I don't, Jeff, I'd say I don't think that the issue is not the resources. In fact, I can show you some data as an institution compared to our peers across the state as well as across the nation. We spend about twice as much in terms of institutional aid on scholarships for students than what other folks do. So I actually think we have the potential, if we have the programming and we have the structure and the environment, to do that with the resources that we have right now. When we look at it, the people we aren't engaging really are those with financial need or at risk. And where we can engage highly academic, high capable students that can contribute something to the environment and also have the need, that's really where I'm finding that sweet spot. How do we put the need-based and the merit-based to get those students, whether it's the first-generation student with a lot of academic potential or something that they can contribute to us. But it's not that the dollars aren't necessarily there, it's the structure and the strategy in which we leverage them is something that we really need to look at. And so we'll have to kind of look at that and see how well we're doing at recruiting the types of students that we want, but also serving the students that are here and ready to come to the college. Good question. Other questions, comments, thoughts? Seth?
As far as the Building Forward campaign goes, the last article that I read in the newspaper said that the governor did approve the Flex Tech building but did not approve the Student Center. Any idea where the Student Center is going to be as far as budgeting goes, legislature-wise, or is there an alternative to funding should it not pass legislation?
Did everybody hear that question? He was asking about the building forward, the two building projects that we have we have half of the funds that were approved by the local voters. The governor made his recommendations in the budget, and in his recommendations he recommended funding the state share of the Flex Tech building, but did not recommend funding the student university center building. And since then I've had some conversation with the governor's office, trying to understand why and where that's from. And this is probably the best way that I can distill his decisions is he wanted to spend about $30 million on capital construction for community colleges, and I think he just had a hard time having it all go to one campus. We would have consumed $22 million of that, and so he skipped over that second project and went to the third priority, which was a building in Torrington at Eastern Wyoming College. It really a needed building, and I support their project over there. But what he also did was put $219, $220 million on the table for the legislature and said, look, there's about $300 or $400 million worth of requests out there. Here's the things I think that are important, but I'm going to give you $200 and some million. You can decide what's important to you. Is it the capital renovation? Is it putting money in the savings account? Is it doing more in capital construction? In conversation with some of our legislative delegation, there's willingness there to get both of these projects funded still. So that's really where our focus is right now, is working with the Joint Appropriations Committee and those legislators from Laramie County that are on that committee and seeing if we can actually get it marked up there. I think there's interest across the state to have a larger community college capital construction project. So we've still got some work to do. I'm not too worried about it at this stage that it's not going to get funded, but we'll see what happens here over the next couple of months. Good question. Other questions? Well, great. Thank you all. You can have a 15-minute break before the next session and have some coffee, and I'll hang around if you want to chat or have anything to ask.